So every year I see so many cute Christmas garland pieces, and I decided to recreate one that I saw last year. So I started with some of these small wood slices that I buy on Amazon. I'll have them linked down below. And I'm just covering each of them front, side, and back with polyacrylic to prevent the wood from cracking. Next, I'm using a stencil. I believe I purchased it at Walmart, if not then Dollar Tree, and I'm just stenciling the letters on each of the wood slices to write out the words Merry Christmas. I know you didn't see that coming, right? I went back over each letter with a small paintbrush and touched up and filled in the gaps. For this next step, I used a pencil to sketch out a Christmas tree on two of the wood slices, and then I painted them with some Waverly chalk paint in the colors moss, celery, and just a little bit of Anita's earth brown paint. And just a tip, I did make sure to go over the pencil lines slightly with the paint, just so that they wouldn't show. And I also layered on the paint kind of thick so that it gives it more of the leafy vibes. I also achieved that two-tone paint simply because I didn't shake my paint and I took advantage of the separation. You could always use two different types of green though, so not a big deal. I used two types of jute string to create the hangers for each wood slice. Even though I don't show it here because I'm a goofball and I didn't record it, first I used the thicker jute string that I purchased at Walmart. I strung it through the hole and I tied the first half of the bow. After I completed the first half of the bow, I just placed a string of the thinner jute string from Dollar Tree, and then I finished off the bow and trimmed the edges. You could always do it the way that I pictured, but it is definitely more complicated that way. Last year I found this amazingly cute buffalo check ribbon at Michael's on sale for, I think it was like $2, and I'm going to put it to use today. So I cut a long piece out and I just tied each of the wood slices to it, and I think it turned out perfect. I probably used the entire thing actually. For this next project, I'm finally using one of these framed canvas kits I bought on clearance at Michael's like 2 years ago. I'm trying to use up everything in my stash because it's looking a little chaotic here, I'm not gonna lie. So we do need to use some stuff up, and I've been hoarding this item forever. Does anybody else have items that you just don't think are good enough? Like that project's not good enough to use this item because it's a rare item, so you just keep hoarding it and you never really make something out of it? That is this for me. Now I want to warn you, this project actually didn't turn out how I expected. It did not, the DIY didn't work out how I planned, but I feel like I was able to save it from a horrible death, so in my book, it's a win. So I printed out this image that I found online, and I will put the link to it below, and I just thought it was so cute and perfect, and I thought I'd try to transfer the image onto the canvas. So I painted on a thick layer of Mod Podge over the canvas, and I laid the image down over it. I used my vinyl smoother to get rid of most of the air bubbles. There were a couple left over, but it wasn't a big deal. And then I laid it aside to dry for 24 hours. While this was drying, I stayed the wood twice. So the first stain wasn't the color I imagined it would be, so I went back over it with Minwax Early American, and then I let that dry. The next day, 24 hours later, I did all the things. I wet the paper. I waited a little while for the water to soak in the paper, and then I gently rubbed it off with water and finger. Mind you, I have done this in the past, not with canvas, but with wood, and I've never had an issue with it, and it totally flopped. This is what I was left with after removing all of the paper, to which I thought, maybe there's still some hope. The next few moments consisted of me grabbing random Cricut markers, paint markers, Sharpie markers, paintbrushes, really anything that I could find, and I just was going over all the lines of the printout until it finally looked decent again, and then I sealed it with Mod Podge, and I attached it to the canvas, or I attached the canvas to the frame with my electric staple gun. For this last project, I traced a dinner plate and cut out 3 circles from a piece of poster board from Dollar Tree. Next, I measured out where the middle was, and I cut a small hole out of the center of the 2 circles. The last circle, I just cut a straight line all the way up to the center, and I wrapped it to make a cone. I'm so sorry, I must have lost all the footage of that. I used 4 of these wooden dowels purchased from Dollar Tree, and I believe they're 12 inches long, and I also had a wooden cube left over from Christmas last year. I stained them all with Minwax stain in Early American, and I hot glued the dowels together. I used a drill bit and my favorite tool to drill a hole in the center of the block, and then I just hot glued the dowels into the cube. I cut some coffee filters and I folded them in a pleat pattern, and then I hot glued them around each cone. I did run into a little issue. One of the holes in the cones were too large. So I cut a small circle in the center of some Play-Doh lids that I had just thrown away. I hot glued them inside of the cones, and then I hot glued the cones to the dowels. Does that make sense? I thought it was pretty clever. And then to finish it off, I just took 2 of these laser cut stars from Dollar Tree and I hot glued them to the top of the tree, and voila! All these projects were super fun to make. They weren't too complicated. I encourage you to make some of your own because it's really fun. I'm getting really festive and jolly over here, and it's a good time. I hope you are having a wonderful, amazing day today. Thank you so much for giving me a moment of your day. Bye.